when you're given these tools to be more efficient and drive more outcomes for the programs you're working on, there's a level of expectation now that maybe what 100% is or was is now 150%. Not to say I don't want to be more effective, but I also want more mindfulness in the things that I'm doing. Google's no longer that one-stop shop where we go on and we conduct our searches and we have to optimize for SEO. It's changing dramatically in how we leverage LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. Creativity starts with the human, and I think we play a massive role in that. There's no better time to have been a marketer than right now.
Welcome to What Keeps Marketers Up at Night, the show where we unpack what's keeping modern CMOs, growth leads, and marketing ops folks awake and occasionally make them laugh about it. I'm Jeff Spinella from Darwin, where we help teams turn marketing chaos into reliable systems that actually work. Today, I'm joined by Brian Chidester, Head of Industry Strategy for the worldwide public sector at Adobe's Digital Strategy Group. Brian is an award-winning public sector strategy and marketing leader with over 20 years of experience. He's also a member of Forbes Technology Council, a global advisory board member at DigiGov Central, and the host of the Government Huddle podcast. Brian, welcome to the show.
Jeff, thanks so much for having me. Excited to dive into some of these topics.
Yeah, excited to chat with you here today and super excited to get your thoughts on a bunch of different things. Let's start here with, I know I gave you a little intro spiel about you, but that certainly doesn't encompass everything that you are. Why don't you share a little bit more about yourself, any gaps there, and anything else you want the folks to know?
Sure, no gaps. I think I like to say I sort of fell into the marketing space and the strategy space by happenstance. I went to college to play soccer, and that's when I fell in love with marketing, and sort of coalesced my love of government, which I already had, uh, with kind of this newfound passion of marketing communications, and that's where my career took off. So I love being in the space. I played a lot of sports growing up, was highly competitive, and it's one of the reasons why I love working in the government space as well, because it's not an easy industry to be part of. But with those challenges comes kind of that sharpening of the competitive edge, which I love, and I would imagine most marketers have. So I get to kind of bring that passion with that sports background to bear every day.
So yeah, and there are so many different facets to government that I think make it a lot different than just your regular, let's say, tech company too. There's
Hmm.
the pieces of the political pull, push and pull, the power pieces, regulation, all these other things too. And we can get into some of this a little later. I don't want to get too heavy too quick because I do want to start on the topic of the show, which is what is keeping you up at night this week in the world of marketing, government, the connection of the two. Curious your thoughts here. What's going on?
Well, what's keeping me up right now is the time zones for the World Cup being not being able to get to sleep on time, and combine that with having 3 kids at home for summer break. That's really what's keeping me up right now. From a marketing perspective, though, the thing that I'm really thinking about the most right now is this shift that we're seeing in content visibility, right? The way we go about finding information is changing, as we like to say, and kind of as I meet with government leaders, like to say, like the digital front door is changing for governments, for brands, and it's all happening at the same time, and it's happening really fast. And what I mean by that is Google's no longer that one-stop shop where we go on and we conduct our searches and we have to optimize for SEO. It's changing dramatically in how we leverage LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever your choice is. And even if you do go to Google, Gemini, right? You barely get to any of those clickable search options until you get through an AI readout of what you were really looking for. So that obviously for the user comes with great advantage, right? You can get more prescriptive and get the type of information that you want faster, without having to go down your own rabbit holes. But for the marketer and the communicator, and government, it changes the strategy in which you deploy content. Honestly, the way you write content and just think about content in general. So, I think content visibility is something I'm giving a lot of thought to right now, not just how we at Adobe are getting our information out to the individuals that we wanna engage, but, as I work with governments, consult with them, how do they remain authoritative in this space to the citizens and the residents that they're looking to engage with and provide information for and services for? So yeah, I think that's really top of mind right now.
Yeah, and a big question there as well. I'm curious, knowing a lot of things you mentioned too, when, speaking about how you find information from search, and historically, yes, it was Google or so whoever did use Bing, and um,
Ask
yeah,
Jeeves. Yeah.
I remember those days too. Yes, yes.
Our AI strategist likes to joke that Ask Jeeves is finally getting its moment because kind of what it thought it was going to be, now it actually is. So I always love when she pulls that out.
Yeah, there's no question. Phrase as a question, you get an answer back as an answer.
Hmm.
Is this something here? Um, where folks sort of have to go back in time. And I'm not just talking about the content they want to get out there, that's today and update today's date. But I know a lot of folks, they rely on evergreen content and old content they have. Do you see a lot of teams, or have you heard a lot of folks trying to, sort of reinvent the whole foundation of how they present themselves online from a, whether it's an SEO, AEO, GEO, whatever you want to call it, or a core content marketing perspective? Or are folks just sort of leaving what's in the past, and saying, "Hey, from here on out, we need to make sure we optimize for X, and whatever's gone is gone."
Well, I think it's a multi-tiered strategy. I think evergreen content still has its value. I think when you think about your evergreen content, though, it's how are you positioning that content in a more dynamic, readable way? Is it just sitting somewhere in your website in a static PDF form, or have you created something more dynamic, leveraging that information that can be pulled in to the LLM. I think it's just important that you're optimizing not just for human beings anymore, but really the bots that are going through your page to really pull that information to remain an authority. So I think that's one. And then what are the individuals that you're looking to engage? What are they searching for? So one of the things that and not to make this a commercial for Adobe, but one of the solutions that we provide that more recently we've been getting into the market really helps you understand what are the people that I serve or the people that I'm trying to engage, what are they looking for? What are the questions that they're asking on ChatGPT? And how do I make sure that I'm aligning the content to fill in those gaps to make sure I'm an authority? You said, and I know it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but like asking a question to get an answer. LLMs love FAQs, right? So are
Mhm.
you creating FAQ documents or have you optimized the FAQs you have on your site to make sure that it recognizes the question and pulls in the answer, and you become that authority? So I think there's a lot of things that organizations out there, whether you're a brand, whether you're a government, any type of marketer or communicator, that you can be doing as you build out that strategy, but you can also be optimizing the platform in which you send out that evergreen content that you already might have on your site.
Gotcha, yeah. That makes sense, and, you can't just, take choose one or the other. You sort of have to do a fully all-encompassing approach.
Yep.
It's, you know, on that note here of taking a step back and looking at how you actually operate, right? Um, More of a hypothetical I want to throw your way. Uh, and I'm not sure exactly what your tech stack is, or what your stack of whatever tools and systems you use every day are, or possibly the team below you, because I know you operate at a pretty large scale in your role, I'm sure. But given where we are in the current state of technology and what people are seeking and trying to optimize and improve on, if you could build your entire marketing or tech or whatever stack you have to use of tools to be able to get these messages out the way you want them to have LLMs pick up the information as best as it can, um, what would that sort of stack look like?
Well, I'll tell you, Jeff, I'm a lucky man that I get to work at Adobe and I get to eat my own dog food, right? I get to use the products that we are positioning, which is amazing because they are best in class. I mean, when you think about experience, I mean, Adobe is the experience company globally, and we get to use these products. I remember when I worked at S&P Global. in a product marketing capacity, we started using some of the data tools that Adobe had, and I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, like where has this been my whole life?" It's amazing. It would give you heat maps of pages of where people spend the most time and all the data that you need around the people that are coming to your site, and how to retarget them, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So when I finally got to Adobe, I sort of kind of rubbed my hands together and said, "All right, what do we get to use here that I can leverage?" And then I get to, I mean, it's the best of both worlds because now I get to work with government communicators and government CX leaders to help them build experiences for citizens. So I bring that love of government, bring that love of marketing together, and get to pull this platform approach to them. I think one of the things that I do think of, though, I think to the spirit of your question, I'll say this: um, whatever, as a marketer, whatever you're looking to leverage, I think it's really important that you take a look at what that platform is and not those disparate products are. And it's not just from an interoperability perspective or an integration perspective, um, but the type of value you get from your site, from your experience. We looked at the Digital Government Index this year, and there was a massive accessibility mandate that went out from the Department of Justice that state governments had to align to. And one of the things that we found was that site speed and site performance dropped year over year, even though accessibility scores and other engagement scores went up. So, what that tells us is a lot of these states were bringing in disparate tools to meet that mandate, but the performance levels of what is that experience engine for the state or for that locality, the performance levels dropped. So I think taking a look at a platform that is really holistic end to end, from a data to a deployment side of things, and then a measurement side of things, that approach, I can't stress enough how important it is if you're really trying to get true experiential performance out of the stack that you're leveraging.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and it's something that we've seen here at Darwin. Uh, working with marketing teams, martech bloat is a huge thing, and
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah,
And it's something that we see teams continue to struggle with. And we have a process and approach we call flux, where you gotta get the foundation right first. You can't just keep adding more things on top, building new pieces to a
correct.
house, and trying to scale it up, right?
Yep.
You get this foundation, or then you can get some clarity, and then you can make sure their integrations are right, and all these things. Because then you're gonna have data leakage, you're gonna have inconsistent reporting, all these issues. So it makes sense, when you can live in one ecosystem the best you can. I know that Adobe has everything out there. Like you said, experience manager. They are the experience company, and not just one thing that's just one tool or one platform. I should say you all have. But if you had to pick one of your favorite Adobe system, tool, platform, maybe you'll get in trouble for saying this, so maybe you shouldn't. But I'm curious if you have one.
I mean, there's a lot of products to pick from. I'm loving Firefly right now. I don't know if people are familiar with Adobe Firefly, our AI platform, where you can create images, videos, voiceovers, all type of content, just through text. And what's really cool about what we've been doing from a strategy perspective is we're pulling in third party models. So you can use obviously Adobe's Firefly model, but you can use the NVIDIA model, you can use the Gemini, Nano Banana Google model, ChatGPT's model, like whatever you're looking for stylistically, you can use. And we keep making innovations in here. We actually just announced an acquisition that we're making for a company that does AI image finishing. So you create your image and it comes in and optimize the image based on kind of what you're looking for. I think just the level of innovation within Firefly is cool, and I get to have fun with my kids on it. So the other day I was sitting with my daughter, and she wanted me to create a video of a unicorn landing on water and walking, and we did it, and she loved it. So I think it's kind of fun things like that I get to do and kind of show my kids. The other, I mean, obviously I love Adobe Express, because I'm not somebody who's a creative. I can't go deep into the weeds on Photoshop and Illustrator and all of that. But you have a platform like Express where you can actually create things that look good, which is something I've never been able to do before. So I think things like that are incredible. They're really the word I use is it sort of kind of democratizes creativity, right? It can make even people like me be able to be creators and build experiences. And we bring that same level of democratization to our experience platform where you're creating from a marketing perspective, creating journeys and optimizing those journeys. And so that's the thing that really excites me.
Excellent. No, I'm not extremely familiar with Firefly, but I will absolutely be checking out and Express too. And yeah, pulling in all these other um, companies, tools, LLMs. Forgive my terminology on that. Being able to use different um, companies'
Like
models.
AI models and yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
that's the word I'm looking for. Is always useful too. So it makes it even more impactful and more of an all one stop shop, if you will, for folks who
Sure.
might be not be able to do that on other platforms. Um, Shifting over a little bit here, um, I like to ask the question to a lot of folks, sort of a nightmare story type of question. Uh, I'd like to hear if you had one to share, and maybe this is for people starting out to make them feel like, hey, it's going to be all right because we all make it past this. Um, Tell us about like a campaign or a launch or a system failure or something that happened in your career that really just fell apart, and um, how that went, and maybe how you were able to get past it and move on.
There were none. All of them were perfect, Jeff. um, no, I think, and when you said earlier in my career, that sort of to me makes me think about when I did get into this government space, which was basically right out of school. Government marketing eh, is unequivocally different than your kind of private sector marketing, your business to business, or even business to consumer, obviously marketing. And I say that because um, it's understanding to a deeper degree what that procurement cycle is, and why it is from a compliance perspective, the way that it's structured, and then understanding your role. So when you go to school and you're learning about classic business to business or business to consumer marketing, they don't tell you about how do you inform or shape an RFP prior to release or that kind of formalized procurement structure, the way we look at it in government. They don't tell you how to align with sales directors and sales leadership, to understand those things and really deploy at scale, what you're trying to achieve, especially from a business development perspective. There was a lot of learning on the fly when I entered this space to understand where I myself or where a marketer fits into the equation. And some of the tactics are very different than the way you build content and the way you deploy content and the way you target individuals looks very different. So as I started out, that was a steep learning curve. That really, once I did figure it out, realized, wow, there's a lot you can really do here. And marketing can play a much larger role in the process than it can in other sectors too. So it is challenging, and there is compliance things you have to figure out, but there are ways that you can be more impactful, almost greater than the sum of your parts, throughout these processes that made me fall in love with it. And I do that over and over again all the time now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I'm a huge fan of higher education, but I will say, even my own experience, my graduate government degree, uh, it's very hard, and folks shouldn't be too worried if they jump into a role out of school and um, they don't understand what's going on, because there's no way. Every job and every role in every industry is very unique. So you can't learn
Mhm.
everything in school, and the most learning you're going to do in those jobs. So internships are good, but
Yeah, I mean, I always think that I learned more in that first year out of school than I probably did those 4 years in.
yeah,
So I think just be a sponge when you're coming out, and I think figure out kind of where your passion lies as you're going, and that'll kind of direct you into that. Because I mean, there's so many roles within marketing, right? And I think you start to figure out what your love is as you go, if you haven't already. So I think it was a great opportunity for me to really do that.
yeah. Absolutely. Be a sponge. Don't be afraid to fail. Of course, level set with your management to make sure the level at which you can fail and how much rope you have. But yeah, completely agree with you on that. Nothing replaces the in-person experience. I wanted to shift a little bit back to, we were talking a little bit about AI, like
Hmm.
AI tools and such. To talk about something that's in the news here recently. I know a couple of days ago, and we briefly spoke about this before we started recording. We saw that the UAE created a dedicated artificial intelligence and data authority to build quote the government in the future. And I also quote from this that they will establish an artificial intelligence data authority that will consolidate public data, AI, and other digital government capabilities into a single national body as part of the country's focus on AI powered digital transformation. I know you and your team work a lot in that area, that region. I'm curious your thoughts on such an initiative. Good, bad, ugly. Would something like this be a good idea in the U.S.? Anything you can touch on there?
A couple things. I mean, to answer your last question first, is it a good idea in the U.S.? I'm going to answer your question with a question: Is kind of, do we even think it's possible to do something like that in the U.S. the way it's structured and the way we build policies around these things? Um, One of the things I didn't mention, and it was probably my fault at the beginning when you asked me to fill in gaps. Another organization that I belong to is the Future Government Institute, and I'm a senior fellow there. And they have a framework that takes a look at what they call kind of government 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, getting into government 4.0. And the thing I'll tell you is that within the Middle East, they are far and away more advanced and will probably get to government 4.0 within that framework before any other country. And it's for a myriad of reasons, not the least of which is budget, being able to put that level of budget in there. But I think the size of it allows countries there in the region there to move a little bit more agilely, and the way the government's structured. If you don't know, thing like organizations within like Saudi Arabia, for example, are government owned, so it changes the structure as well. Um, but I say that because I mean one of the things that I'm seeing globally right now, and we just released a research report that substantiates this, is the hardest part about AI for government and private sector right now is driving enterprise level adoption. We're seeing pilots of value across all sectors, but it's getting to that enterprise level adoption that is really tricky. And the what does allow for that is data, data governance, data foundations. Do you have your data house in order to be able to scale out that technology enterprise wide and make it valuable for your workforce? Um, and that to me is what this UAE setup is doing. Is they are foundationalizing the idea that we need to have a structure in place from the ground up that supports the data into that AI enterprise proliferation, to really see value out of the technology. Um, so that I mean that's kind of what they're doing. I think it's a really smart move. The reason why I asked the question on top of your question about is it even possible within the U.S. is the way it's structured, obviously across the federal government, and then across states, and then across localities. Policy becomes a big driver from federal and down, and even when you get into the states, policy becomes very decentralized. Every state has a different policy on AI, a different policy on privacy, data governance. Data sovereignty and all of that. So I think, is it important to put intentionality behind your data foundation to be able to build on that and proliferate it enterprise wide from an AI perspective? Yes. How you do it, I think, is probably going to be a country by country, in our case, potentially a state by state conversation. Um, but finding a way to put that level of intentionality behind it, similar to what they are doing in UAE, is really important.
Perfect sense. And yeah, I think your question to my question is very fair. And my short answer would have been no, at least not in the current state. I
Yeah.
don't think it's possible. And from what I've seen, not only is our federal government, but also every state, most states, most localities within them are way behind the eight ball, anyways, as it relates to putting policies in place for
When I think that
regulation.
well, and this technology is it's moving at a speed that we've never seen before. I mean, I attribute that to a number of factors, not the least of which is they pushed it out to consumers. I mean, how fast did ChatGPT get released before every person kind of downloaded and said, "What is this thing?" And once
Oh,
everybody saw it, they wanted to use it, and they started to understand generative AI more and more. Now we're getting into the agentic realm, but the way it was democratized out to consumers made us all kind of stand up and say, "Oh, what is this? I want to use it in everything." And now we're kind of at the advent of that, and we're just making sure. I mean, I say the collective we as a society, but I think as we look at country by country, how do we do it in the most responsible, ethical, but most meaningful way at all levels across all sectors? And that's really the questions that are being asked right now. And I think if if the way we've seen AI accelerate is any indicator, we're going to get answers hopefully fast, and there'll be questions being asked as we're answering. So we're going to have to really, really keep up.
agreed. And the whole responsibility piece of that is mostly, it's, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen, has been thrown out the window. I mean, a lot of the ethos of Silicon Valley and a lot of these companies is grow as fast as possible, get as much profit as you can, um, move fast, break things, and regulation and rules be damned until they are relevant. And so, we've seen some stories out there of certain companies, Anthropic, pushing back against the administration for their use of Claude and things like that. But I think those are fewer and far between than um, we're going to push forward, and what happens happens, and it's hard, like you said, when it advances so fast
Yeah,
for government to catch up and to put its arms around such a thing. So I
yep.
hope for the best, but it might get to a point where we have singularity and we're beyond the return. Um,
Let's hope not.
yes, let's hope not. I'm hoping not as well, but we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell, and probably sooner than later.
Hopefully, we're not in the
So
process of creating like a Skynet.
I'm hoping not
There's
as
like a
well.
Terminator reference there for people that weren't tracking. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Um, let's get it back to something a little bit lighter here. Um, everybody's got in their mind, at least in the marketing world, who's been there for quite some time, probably a bit of a shared belief in what processes are right, what ways to approach certain types of marketing. There are certain frameworks and rules. They do change from time to time, but there's a little bit of a shared consciousness around best practices, so to speak. I'm curious what your most unpopular marketing opinion may be, and it could be related to marketing, governments, communications, anything under the umbrella of which you is your domain.
I don't know if I would say it's unpopular as much as I would say it's not as widely executed on. I would hope that most marketers would agree to this, but my thought is, and kind of going back to what I talked about earlier about the impact we can have as marketers and being greater than the sum of our parts. Um, I think when we look at holistic go to market, every single player in that process, marketing deserves a major seat at that table. And I don't just mean marketing campaigns, I mean strategy, I mean sales execution, I mean all of it. And being able to read the market, have the data to be able to support your opinions and the decisions that you make, you can become vital to sales leaders as you're trying to not only take advantage of a market you're in, but identify new markets that you might not be thinking about, and connect the dots between different go to markets that one might build on the other once you establish a beachhead. I'm just spitting out examples here, but I think when you take a look at strategy, um, and not just marketing strategy, but the holistic strategy of the business, marketing should and deserves a major seat at that table. So again, I'm hoping it's not an unpopular opinion. I'm hoping it's one that's shared by people that are listening. But I think it's a great opportunity right now, especially as we leverage data to uh, eh, become more efficient in what we're doing, and drive more significant outcomes for the business. I think marketing deserves potentially an outsized piece of that pie.
Yeah, I would also fully agree with that, and I would also say that it's possible some folks don't share that opinion and don't realize it to the extent that they should.
Yeah.
in the ever increasing frenetic world that we're in, getting that eyeball attention from folks, which is marketing in a nutshell, um, is the most important thing. What's the share of attention you can get? And with so many
Well,
distractions, so many options out there. Yeah,
well, and maybe this is the unpopular side of it, but I think part of the problem with that is I think not all, but I think some marketers might be scared of that opportunity to step even beyond where traditional marketers have supported, which has generally been, for the most part, kind of a reactive entity. I think some marketers get a little bit scared about what that proactive posture looks like, what that larger piece of business strategy looks like. So I think stepping into that role is important because marketers have a big opportunity to drive significant value for a business.
I agree. And I would also add to that that from folks that we work with here at Darwin, sometimes enterprise, usually mid market companies, I could see where that fear comes from because a lot of the folks in the marketing departments, um, they're always trying to provide or prove the value of their team to the executive leadership. It's
Exactly.
easier. It's easier for sales to point to, I sold this and this is how much it costs. Telling that story from top of funnel to bottom is always trickier,
Mhm.
and might introduce a bit of an inferiority complex or fear to speak up when they ought not to. So I really appreciate that point of view. I think that's fantastic, and a good perspective for folks to have. Push forward and you know lean in, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we're towards the end here, and I don't want to lean in too much more because I really appreciate your time, Brian, and I know you got a lot of exciting things to come here to get ready for your hopefully a little bit of a vacation and enjoying the fourth holiday. I did want to ask here to sort of wrap around the title of our podcast here. After everything we've talked through here, what would help you sleep a little bit more at night? And it doesn't have to be about marketing communications; it could be that.
I think something that isn't gonna happen, but wish it would, is this, the pace, the frenetic pace at which kind of AI and technology is impacting the business for us to get our arms around it. I think it's certainly kind of a blessing and a curse in a way. I think, um, at Adobe, eh we use AI in almost everything that we do, and becoming more efficient. But I also think the other side of that is I think the level of expectation of what we're delivering has gone up. I was having this conversation with a coworker the other day where I think with great power comes great responsibility. And what I mean by that is now what because you have these tools at your disposal, um, like I mean at Adobe, for example, we have access to enterprise licenses of ChatGPT and Claude and other platforms. When you're given these tools to be more efficient and drive more outcomes for the programs you're working on, there's a level of expectation now that maybe what 100% is or was is now 150% from a outcomes based perspective. So I think, not to say I don't want to be more effective, but I also want more mindfulness in the things that I'm doing, and I don't want to lose. Not to say that we have, but I don't want to lose the quality of the things that we're doing. So I think that's the thing that I wish, to a degree, things like AI could slow down. Now, the reality is it's not. It's only getting faster. So we have to keep up. We have to be able to use that technology to the nth degree to make ourselves more effective in the roles that we're in. Do it intelligently. Do it in a way that's human led. So things like content doesn't just become AI kind of spitting out opinions and things. But I think we have to use the tools that we have to be more valuable to the organization. Um, but yeah, that's probably what I'd say.
No, I think that's great, and I completely agree. From what I've seen here, the expectations are higher because of
Hmm.
this, and I'm also on board with you that AI is not the answer to everything, and um, it's not right about everything, and the challenges, of course, at every level you go up in the organization. What's important to that person is different, and to get the highest you get, it's about efficiency, it's about profit, it's about everything that these tools drive, or at least they believe
Yeah.
that. So you gotta, do your best and adjust to the world because we don't only have a choice, right?
Hmm.
um, all right. Well, before we wrap up here, I just want to give you the opportunity and thank you again for joining here. Any final parting thoughts to share with the folks who are listening?
I think the only thing I would say is that we're at a really cool inflection point right now, and I even say this to government leaders who tend to be more laggard in kind of the experiences that they drive. But I think in all sectors, we're at a point in time now where the technology has caught up to really we can provide any experiences that we want for the people that we serve, or the if you're a brand, the people you're selling to. um, so technology is not the issue. Capability is not the issue. I've always thought that technology is also not the end all be all. It's the human behind it that really builds out the strategy and kind of is that level of creativity that you then deploy. So the thing I would say is just look to rise to the occasion. I think we are at this cool inflection point, and I think take advantage of it. It's a massive opportunity. There's no better time to have been a marketer than right now, with all the things that we have, all the data that we have, and the context that we have within whatever market we're in. So I think enjoy it, take advantage of it, and just find ways to be creative in a world that kind of thinks about technology first. I think creativity starts with the human, and I think we play a massive role in that.
Very well said. Well, thank you so much for joining, Brian. Appreciate it. Um, and once more here, I'm joined by Brian Chidester, head of industry strategy for the worldwide public sector at Adobe's digital strategy group. Check out his podcast, the Government Huddle podcast. He has amazing guests in the government space, super insightful conversations that are really relevant in this complex place we are nowadays. And to wrap up here, you've been listening to What Keeps Marketers Up at Night, brought to you by Darwin, the team that helps CMOs finally trust their data and sleep a little better. Subscribe, share, and get some rest. You've earned it. Thanks again, Brian.
Thanks, Jeff.